In this episode, we're going to talk about a topic that I've been thinking about for years. I just never knew if it would be boring as hell or entertaining. So stick around to see which one it is. Hello, fellow nostalgia seekers, and welcome to Nostalgia Syndrome. My name is Rob, and in this episode, we will be talking about a topic that I've been thinking about for years. And when I say years, I'm talking about all the way back from when I was writing the My Side of the Laundry Room blog, 7 years ago, if not more. So this is before YouTube, before anything. I was thinking about this. So I never knew how to present it. So I hope it's entertaining and it helps get that nostalgia, vibe going for everybody. But in case it doesn't and it's boring as hell, like I said, just let me know in the comments. We can nip this in the bud, or if you liked it, we can continue on. Anyway, what this topic is 80s TV trays. Now, yes, I know that doesn't sound very adventurous or exciting, but hear me out. Yes, growing up, I loved the TV trays that I had. One that stands out in my mind was a Smurfs one that I had that we'll talk about in a later video, if we get that far. But, they were super useful. You could eat your cereal while watching Saturday morning cartoons. You could use it while playing a game of solitaire. But they also opened up a world of imagination, because my TV tray was my G.I. Joe battle platform. It was the Death Star. It was whatever I wanted it to be. But on top of all that, these are actually really beautiful works of art. TV trays encompassed everything. TV shows, movies, cartoons, toys, everything. And in the 80s, they were everywhere. It's sad that they are gone now, and what we are left with are these plastic things that do indeed have nice artwork on them, but it's just not the same. Now, there were two different types of TV trays. You had your little squat one, which was personally my favorite, or you had the standing, bigger one that you could actually sit at the couch while using. So, without further ado, let's get to the first tray on the list. Our first awesome 80s TV tray comes from the hit 1982 Steven Spielberg movie E.T., the Extraterrestrial. Now, this tray features a still from the film of E.T. and Elliot. Now, the first thing that stands out about this TV tray, other than the awesome picture, is the red border that goes around it. I don't know why. There's just something about that style that just screams 80s to me. Now, I love at the bottom, written in cursive, his adventures on Earth. That's just, a perfect send-off to this film. Now, this tray is everywhere, and you can pick it up for a measly average price of $20 on different third-party sellers around the interwebs. Our second tray comes from a very popular plush toy line that was released by Tonka in 1984. It is the Pound Puppies. Now, this artwork features just nondescript Pound Puppies. This is before the cartoon aired and before these puppies had personality. We see them frolicking in a grassy field, and they all look pretty spot on to their plush counterparts. I always wanted a Pound Puppy, but I kind of had to settle for the ones that I ended up getting at Hardee's. The little puppy Pound Puppies. Anyway, The price for this TV tray is all over the place, so we'll say that it has an average price of $30. Our third tray technically did not come out in the 80s, but it is a timeless character that had popularity in pretty much every decade that he's been in, and that is SpiderMan. This tray was released in 1979, and it features iconic artwork of the webhead. It's beautiful, simplistic, and would look perfect on your wall if you're just a fan of Spider-Man, a comic book collector, a toy collector, what have you. Like I said, the simplicity really works and really sells it. Now the price of this tray is, like the Pound Puppies, all over the place, but we'll give it an average price of $30. Number 4 on the list comes from a very popular video game that happened to be a sequel to the world's most popular video game of all time. I guess you would say it's a sequel of sorts. Anyway, it is Miss PacMan, who chomped her way onto the scene in 1981. Now the tray came out in '82 and featured such awesome artwork. I remember this artwork at the time of her being like a starlet with a boa, and in the background is like a classy car that she is getting out of. And they included a picture of the arcade cabinet as well. It's an awesome piece, and I love the colors. That blue really is vibrant and stands out, and just the pink highlights of the Miss PacMan just make this a perfect piece of artwork that, like I was saying before, you can hang up if you're a fan of any and all of the above. Now, this beautiful artwork actually comes with a pretty hefty price, but the average is $50. Number 5 comes from one of the most popular 80s action figure toy lines, and that is Masters of the Universe. This tray was released in 1982 and features iconic artwork. This is the type of artwork you would see on folders, you would see on t-shirts, you would see on linens, things like that, beach towels, what have you. Now this was no exception. It was beautiful, iconic, simple, and what really sets this tray apart from a lot of the others is the awesome flame work that is around the rim of the tray, if you will. Now one little factoid I think I've picked up on, and I could be completely wrong, is this tray came out in 1982, like I was saying, and it features Orko. Now the cartoon didn't start airing until 1983. So was this like the first appearance of Orko? Was this the first look that kids at that time got to the haphazard magician? I don't know. Now this, again, is a very pricey piece, and I think it's the flames that probably drive up the price because it just adds a whole aura of awesomeness. But the average price is $70. Number 6 is by far the most expensive tray on this list, and is from a very popular 70s and 80s TV show. So popular, in fact, that when its 2 top stars decided they weren't getting paid enough, they shoved a couple of cousins onto the screen and bide their time until the stars returned. This was the Dukes of Hazzard, and they actually have a couple of different trays under their belts, but we are looking at this one specifically. Everything about this tray is perfect, from the stars that border it, to the very bad cutout of Luke Duke, to the fact that they actually decided to cut out Daisy's cleavage to go along with her picture. Yeah, wild and wacky times. Anyway, like I said, this is the most expensive tray on the list, and it averages at $100, and that's a low average, mind you. I don't know what it is. Is it the popularity of this show, or the problematic nature of the General Lee and people, kind of clamoring for that controversy? I don't know. Either way, I was a fan of the Dukes of Hazzard growing up, and this tray is pretty cool. Number 7 was released in 1989 and comes from a very popular Tim Burton movie, Batman. I know it sounds silly saying a Tim Burton movie because it's freaking Batman. And he had other trays floating around at the time of the comic book version, but this is the Michael Keaton version, and it featured the iconic production photos of Batman with the Batmobile. This is, again, a great display piece, and yeah, fits anybody that is a fan of comics, Batman, Michael Keaton, Tim Burton, what have you. Now, the average price of this really surprised me because it only goes for about $20. So, yeah, if you can find one, that would be a great piece to hang on your wall, shelf, what have you. Our 8th awesome 80s TV tray comes from a toy line that was released by Fisher-Price in 1986, the Puffalumps. These plush animals were very lightweight and they were made from like nylon parachute material. They were made to be very, squishy, foldable, what have you. And the artwork kind of features that because they look kind of sloppy and fun and ragdoll-like, even though they weren't. They're made from parachutes. You could probably jump out of a plane and hold Puffalump over your head and glide down to safety. Like I said, this is a forgotten 80s plush animal toy line that kind of shows you what the 80s were all about. Total domination of products to help advertise their toys. Now, there weren't any cartoons or anything attached to Puffalumps, but this TV tray makes me a fan, and it sells for an average of $20, so that's pretty cool. Number 9 comes from a very popular toy line, popular cartoon, just a very popular piece of pop culture royalty, and it is the Care Bears. Now, this tray was released in 1983 and featured just iconic artwork from a gaggle of Care Bears. Maybe that's why the average price of this is a little bit higher than a lot of the items on this list, because it goes for around $50. And I can understand why, because this is just a great snapshot of the Care Bears done in that iconic artwork that was featured on greeting cards, books, stationery, whatever different bacchanalia that American Greetings was releasing throughout the 80s. I am a huge fan of this piece. The price, a little bit too rich for my blood, but something like this I would proudly display amongst all my toys and 80s knickknacks. Our 10th and final awesome 80s TV tray comes from one of the most radical toy lines and cartoons of the 80s and 90s, and that is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This tray was released in 1988, and it's probably the most bombastic of all the trays that we've looked at, with that just explosion of color, of red and yellow, just arcing out everywhere, with, in the middle, our fearsome foursome ready to kick some foot and tail. This features iconic artwork of the turtles in their cartoon form, and in the future, if we do another one of these episodes, you'll know what I mean, because some of the other turtle trays, weren't as cartoony looking as this one. I mean, that's awesome. The turtles have lived so many different lives, and who would have thought that they would still be going so strong today with an awesome, great movie in the movie theaters? I mean, who would have thunk that all the way back in the 80s, that they would still be going strong? But here we are, and we all are better people for it. Anyway, the average price of this tray is $30. And that's a bargain when you consider just how popular the turtles are, and just for how many decades they've been fighting crime and making kids happy across the world. Okay folks, that was a look at 10 awesome 80s TV trays. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Like I said, I don't know how it will come out because it's kind of an unexplored talking point for me. It's not like I stop people on the street and go, TV trays! So I hope it's somewhat entertaining. I hope you all got, great nostalgia vibes from it, and I hope we can continue on with this little series. But believe me, if you didn't like this, if you think it's stupid, just let me know in the comments, and I'll just weigh the pros and the cons and what people have to say, and we'll see if we will go on with this. If not, I got to talk about it a little bit, so thank you for letting me do that. This is also officially now the 7th season of My Side of the Laundry Room here on YouTube. So I wanted to kick things off, hit the ground running with something completely different. And I think TV Trays is that. It's different, all right. So again, thank you for letting me talk about it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's a little bit entertaining, and I hope all this mess that I just filmed works itself out in the editing bay. We will see shortly. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them, and I love getting back to everyone. And if you're new around here and you enjoyed this, or any of the episodes that YouTube is recommending down here, please hit subscribe. And if you hit that little bell icon, you will be notified whenever there's a new episode. So anyway, until next time, thanks for watching. Keep being rad, and stay dorky.